Hello, everyone. My name is Cody Hall. I'm the host of The Faces, Entrepreneurs Are People Too, and the founder and CEO of Telehelping, a virtual staffing company, and the herein sponsor of this podcast. So thank you, Telehelping, for being able to provide me the ability to talk to unique people like Peyton. How are you doing today, Peyton?
Doing fantastic. Pretty
Yeah.
nice day out here.
Oh, where you at, Peyton?
I'm located in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Ooh, what's the weather like there right now? I got 55 on my side.
It'll definitely fake you out. It looks sunny and 75, but it's a cool 29 degrees with a wind chill about 10. So definitely not going to be outside today.
Well, I think it's an interesting thing is that everyone should know right off the bat, because if you can't tell, Peyton and I are brothers. And so it's a unique opportunity that I have Peyton on here today. Peyton's my younger brother and someone who's getting ready to launch into the entrepreneurship game. So I wanted to have him on. But first, Peyton, before we dive into all the decisions you're making, I want to give us an idea of the viewers who we're talking with here today. Who is Peyton Hall?
I'm just like everybody else. I put my pants on left leg, right leg next. Me and my brother grew up, not so perfect life, but, we all decided to make the crazy decision and join the Marine Corps. All three of us did. We have an older brother, Josh. We all went our own paths.
Not an entrepreneur, by the way. Not an entrepreneur.
The old saying, we're not all made equally is a true statement. He's a great individual. He's a police officer in a small town in Georgia. We're proud of him. But I did the Marine Corps for 4 years. Got out of the Marine Corps, joined the Utah National Guard, served another 10. I actually just got medically separated this past year for some personal health issues, but that's all great. But I'm blessed to have a lovely wife. Her name is Allie, and we have a beautiful 8-month-old daughter named Layla Dean. And we're just out here trying to make a life and live the American dream, because the new American dream now is not, owning a home, working a 9 to 5. It's the real American dream is to capitalize on being a self-employed individual and source your own work and grow your own name.
Yeah, I mean, Peyton, you said it right there. Is we're not all equal, but I think when you judge everybody, you have to look through their own grading rubric, right? Right. Someone would choose, hell, where would we be if no one wanted to be a police officer? Like, imagine if everybody wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? But no one wanted to be a firefighter, right? So
no, it's one of those things where some people like the steady 9 to 5 or an actual work schedule, and some people thrive in chaos. And I think you have to have a little bit of both of that to be an entrepreneur. But realistically, we're all just, riding the lightning and taking it one day at a time.
I think that you and I are, and I'll take what you said a little bit there and I'll spin it a different way, because you and I have had this conversation over and over again together, and we've tried to express it to Josh, our older brother. And it's this mentality of, you don't know what it's like to be an active duty Marine unless you are on active duty, right? And active duty, I think the reason that we find people like you and my personality, Peyton, ending up in the entrepreneur world is when you're on active duty, they run your world. It's like, think of it like work release. Like you are in prison, right?
You're in juvenile.
Yeah. And they let you go out.
Detention. They pay you, but you have to. There's guidelines and stuff to follow there. But it definitely taught me a lot about swimming while drowning. If anybody ever understood, like you ever go to special force training or swim training in certain categories, they're not teaching you how to swim. They're teaching you how to drown, because 90% of the time you have to survive that to get through it.
Yeah, it's just trying to keep your head above water. And I think that's what it just defines entrepreneurs. And there are some people who start companies, right? I've met them, right? And I cannot wait to see one day, maybe, I don't know what that feels like, right? To own a company, run a company, and to never even feel like your neck's under the water, right? Like, that'd be great. That'd be beautiful. Right. But unfortunately, like, even with the success of telehelping, like, there's been ups and downs. And sometimes you're bobbing in the water.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. You never know what's going to come next, but you just got to prepare for the worst and expect the best at the end of the day, and just roll with it. And, no matter what problem or scenario arises, just handle, like the old saying is, one bite at a time. You can't take the elephant down at once.
Yeah,
you got to take it one step at a time and not get overwhelmed, and just focus on the problem right in front of you, and the next one will come after that. So Little
Yeah,
pictures, not big
I
ones.
think it's just like the saying is every 1,000-mile journey starts with one step, right? And so let's
Yep.
talk about your one step because we just talked about how we've been equated entrepreneurship up to this point to drowning, to it being a struggle, right? So it's looking very attractive for everyone out there listening who's not an entrepreneur, but also you started off by saying the American dream is freedom, right? And I
Yeah.
think that is an interesting way to start because what is freedom, right? We think about like this idea of being able to wake up every day, work wherever we want, but true freedom, like you just said, is being able to make all your own decisions, right? Like what
Yes.
job you take, how you make money. So what you're trying to say is like, I've done well. And for up to this point, just so people know, Peyton's in plumbing, right? He's in plumbing, right? And so up to this point, you've been a plumber for somebody, done what someone else has said to do. And now you're like, you know what? I think I'm going to take it to the next level. I think I'm going to do what I want to do, run the company I want to run, right?
Absolutely. I started plumbing in 2016 after the Marine Corps. Actually, about a year and a half. I had to divert to California for the fun of the sun, but found my way to Utah. That's another story. But I started at $12 an hour, worked my way up from commercial residential building, and then I went to service plumbing, which, just so people don't understand what service plumbing is, I'm the technician that knocked on your door when you called and asked for a problem to be solved. I was usually one of the 3 to 5 that showed up, and I've been doing that for 5 years. And I realized the way I ran my business in my truck, the way I might have worked for someone, but I ran my own calls. I managed my own jobs. I managed my own processes. And I learned that, I can do this for the rest of my life, but do I really want to be the guy that's in the truck at 50 years old still doing that? Or do I want to take a leap of faith and go after it and do it myself and build something for me? And realistically, the way I tell people is I'm no longer building someone else's dream. Every day I'm out there working, I'm building my family's dream. And
Yeah,
that's way more rewarding than, going to work for someone.
100%. I mean, Peyton, that's the thing is like, the great thing about telehelping up to this point, right, has been like, even if I didn't make a whole lot of money I made was still mine, right? I made it on my own terms. And, and the great thing is you get to decide every day how you build your company, right? You get to decide every day what jobs you want to take, why you're taking them. And the good thing is why it's your decision. We talk about that freedom. You get to accept every consequence that comes with that decision, right? Like, oh, well, I'm $5,000 down this month, but I'm so glad I didn't take that job because I knew that client was going to be the biggest pain in my butt the entire month, right? That's why I didn't take that repiping. And so you get to choose those pains and those gains.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, so I've been my whole life I've always been made fun of for talking a lot and
Mm.
always asking for stuff. And you were there.
Mm. You were
There,
there.
there, there's an old uncle of ours called Uncle Lenny. He was a fishing boat fisherman. And that boy, we went to the store one time, and he's like, "I only got $5." My nickname at the time was Pumpernickel because I always wanted more than 5 cents. But but I've been blessed because I've turned that into something good. Because what I'm competing against out here in Utah is all the major companies have been bought out by corporate backing. They're all ran by a board, and this all comes down to revenues, and they're really raising the prices out here for common folk that are really trying to get by. So what I'm trying to focus on is old school style of marketing, a little bit reduced pricing compared to the most of my competition, because I'm trying to do it where we have zero overhead. So that means for me is I do jobs, I save money. If I need another truck, I buy it cash. I'm trying to
Yeah.
keep the overhead low. Now that's not always going to be the case. Everyone's going to have overhead eventually, but I still want to focus on that quality of service and taking care of people the right way, and obviously fixing what they called me for, and letting them know other issues that we notice while we're in the home, but not necessarily saying I need to get done today. Let's help them build a game plan for the next 6 months. These are your next priorities coming up, and set them up for
Yeah.
success, even if they don't use me, which it happens
Yeah.
all the time.
So you're taking an old school approach to it. And that's good. And, I think that the picking, like a telehelping, for example, my favorite word is always genuine, right? And so like I never want to have the understanding that we're so aggressive on ourselves that we aggravate and spam people. It's just not my tactic. I rather grow slow and steady than to spam a million people for a few lousy clients. And so I get that, doing it the best way possible. And so as you're doing that though, are you scared? are you scared of being an entrepreneur? Does that scare you that you're leaving this someone else doing all it for you to now run your own business?
Well, I was slowly going to do this over the next year to integrate over to being on my own, but some things came up and it happened a lot faster than I expected. But
Yeah.
the crazy thing is, it's probably the most exciting and nerve-wracking thing you can do, because it's not, I know I can do it. That's not the problem. I have to prove to myself I can. And, that's probably weird to say, because in my mind, I can tell myself I want to do it, but I need to show myself I can do it. Everybody else says I can do it, but until I prove to myself I can, then I'm still going to doubt myself. But I'm also going through a weird phase where for the last 5 years, I woke up and I ran a truck from 8 to 5 every day, running 3 to 5 calls, to make the income I needed. I had to run 3 to 5 calls. Now that I'm an entrepreneur, I'm trying to slow my mindset down, because if I go out there and run 2 to 3 calls and I capitalize on those calls, big or small, with the way companies are taxed and everything, and the way owners are treated through the tax system, I don't have to run, 40 to 50 calls a month. I can do a good 20, 25 and still grow my business slowly, because I'm not trying to be one of these companies that are doing $20 million revenue, 20 to $30 million in revenue. My goal is 3 to 5 million in the next 2 to 3
Maybe.
years.
Yeah, maybe you're at 5 million and you're like, I think 10 looks nice.
Well,
Right?
exactly. But, I want to set so I'm setting myself 3 to 5 year goals right now. So, if you do it right within 3 to 5 years, and you build a good employee base and client base, and you have good marketing and networking, you can be 3 to 5 million in 2 to 3 years out here in plumbing. If you have, us at Drain Kings, it actually started with my partner Jake 3 years ago as a drain cleaning company, as a jetter company. It's a high pressure jetter, 3,000 psi of water to cut roots and clear mains and secondary drains, such as your sink and your faucet, throughout your house. And me started talking 2 years ago about doing this, and I just worked really hard to get my master plumber license. And so we have a good base of what we call repeat clients that use us as subcontractors. So we have a base, like our bills are paid. Now we're trying to branch out to become more. So we don't have the millions of dollars, or that we didn't take a big loan.
Well, I've told you, and I mean, I much like our conversation before you decided to really branch out on your own, was that that's the way to do it. Oftentimes, hey, I'm all down for people who would just quit everything, live off savings, and start a business. Like, that's how I did it. I'll just be very clear. It's kind of a stupid way of doing it, right? Because it's nice to see you have the opportunity to have seen if this thing was going to float right on your side, and then you're like, oh, this thing is floating. Maybe I can do this full time. So you already had it in the idea that you were going to do this. You've already tested the waters, and you're just preparing to push off, right?
Yeah, because right now, I'll be honest with you, we spend $500 a month on SEO. To compete in the market we're living right now, there's conglomerates out there that are spending $200K a month on SEO, but they're also feeding 100 plumbers, so I'm actually taking the old school approach of the 90s and 2000s, where I'm networking with companies and say, hey, I don't do HVAC, you do, you have plumbing, send me plumbing, I send you HVAC. I'm relying on my network groups to spread the word of my name and my abilities and our culture out there to the people, so that they might call companies such as Whipple or Any Hour first, but when they ask their friend, hey, who do you recommend, they're hopefully going to recommend smaller companies such as us. We're not the only one, but get us in the door, and we'll prove to you that we're just as good and just as capable for sometimes half the cost.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
we don't have the overhead.
That's what it comes down to is, I think you're focusing on a grassroots marketing perspective. My favorite, to be honest with you. Great grassroots marketing. I'm consulting with a client right now who, over the next 90 days, he just agreed to continue working with us for another 6 months. And consulting, the idea is like, okay, do you want to email 1 million people and get a bunch of clients who will probably be the biggest pain in your butt? Or would you like to use your reputation, right, to become that company that is slowly referred, and I say slowly, but a healthy slow, we'll call it 6% growth every month, right? Refer to people, because word of mouth is the strongest form of advertising. You can guarantee that you're going to have a better experience with someone who, because they were referred to you, than someone off a Google ad.
Yeah, it's funny. One of the job that I did today, I had a couple things I'm wrapping up because I had some jobs pull over to this week. But I was at
Mm-hmm.
Smith's. I actually wasn't even at Smith's grocery store on Saturday. I was actually getting coffee for the wife because that's my Saturday routine now that I don't have to work on Saturdays, which is nice. But there was a truck that drove by me called Turnkey Construction, and I just followed him over to his parking spot and said, "Hey, sir, sorry to bother you. I'm Peyton. I own a small plumbing company. If you have any projects you'd like me to bid, I would love you to give me an opportunity to try one or two out, show what we're capable of." And that same guy called me the next morning at 9 o'clock on Sunday, and I just sold him a gas line for a 150-foot gas line install for a backyard barbecue pit. You know, it's always about having cards on you and being willing to be that guy that says, "Hey, I understand you got a business. I understand you got a plumber. I'm just asking for an opportunity. Let me show you what I can do." And that's what I've been doing the last few weeks. And I'm averaging, as a sole person, my partner does the jetters and stuff as well, but on the plumbing side, it's me right now. I'm averaging $15,000 to $20,000 in revenue a week right now. That's not even, I think last week I did $35,000 in jobs, and various size jobs, but it probably cost me close to 10 to 15 grand for those jobs. And I had some jobs that I sold that's part of that didn't cost anything in parts or nothing. It was just labor,
Yeah.
and so it's just all about the small jobs add up just as big as the big job you just landed.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, Peyton, it's a good, important perspective that you have. One, never miss an opportunity, right? Put your foot in the door, right? If following someone, that is as good as it gets when it comes to putting your foot in the door. The other side is realizing what you seek to get out of something, right? You seem to have the mindset of not wanting to be a blue collar millionaire tomorrow, which is great because it's not going to happen. Right.
Yeah.
And if it does happen, expect me to come figure out how you did it. I'll be the first one to ask because I'd be like, man, I'm really messing up over here. But look, I think you have the right mindset because, and I tell this to Teresa all the time, dude. I wish life was a straight line. Like, I wish that we got out of high school and went to the Marine Corps, and then went from Marine Corps, went to whatever school we went to as a trade or college, and went to a great job and started a great company, and it was wildly successful. And then everyone lived happily ever after, right? Like, I wish life was just a straight line up. But you and me both know, because you and me both know each other probably better than anyone else knows us, right? Except for our unfortunate wives, is the fact that that shit ain't straight. Like, it's not straight.
I'll say something that's controversial. Some people, most veterans will agree with me. 95% of military members that get out of the military, I'll be honest with you, they lie to you to get in the military. Okay, my recruiter, they lie. Okay, it's just a God-given talent, but we need you people to join because that's what protects us. But realistically,
we need people to be lied to.
the lie that I got told is that the military is going to put me ahead of my peers. And what I learned since I've coming out of the military and stuff is I was not 4 years ahead. I was 4 years behind. Because when you leave the military, you're losing a job. You're losing housing. You're losing everything you've had for 4 years. You don't have a retirement. You don't have money coming in.
Start over zero.
You're going back to the place you grew up with probably less than 10 grand in your pocket because no one bothers to teach you how to spend your money wisely while you're in the military.
And probably bad habits too. Right?
Exactly.
Right,
my brother got back from deployment back in like 2008, bought a Daytona Dodge Charger. I love the heck out of that car.
Great car.
He had no business buying that car, but no one was there to teach him. We didn't have that. Like, we didn't have normal parents that taught us finances and stuff. That's number one thing as a father that I look into, that I want to relay into my businesses. I don't want to show people how to do this job just to do it. I want them to know. I want to teach them the things I wish I was taught from the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, one great thing that I understand is the world doesn't get taught finances, but you can be taught poor finance. Like, there's people who don't get taught anything, and there's people who are taught bad things, right? I'd say majority of people who get in the Marine Corps, in spite of whatever they're told when they're joined, they're generally taught bad financial practices in the military, right? Oh, I got to pay for my car, I'm paying for my phone, and everything else is free money, right? Because you have housing, you have all this stuff for you. But like you said, and I didn't really think about that perspective. Like it's like get the day one after the military is like you've been fired from your job, you've lost your retirement, you don't have a home anymore, right? And they're basically saying they've set you up for success in the world, but what they're really doing is like pushing you out of a bird's nest and saying, let's see if you fly or glide at best.
And the worst part is yeah, you leave a job now in the real world, you just leave a job. You have your friends there. But when you're leaving the military, you're not just leaving friends, you're leaving family. Like you make a bond with those guys and you're gutted. It's like you wake up with like, don't get me wrong, first few months is fun that you're out, freedom, go do the things that they say you couldn't do. But about 4 to 6 months afterwards, you're like, what in the heck am I going to do? Did I make the right decision? And it took me a few years to figure that out, but here I am now. Luckily, I have some good things going for me. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it's definitely, I'm willing to push to go for it because now I'm not pushing for someone else's dream. I'll push for mine. If I don't have calls, I'm knocking at businesses' doors. Who does your drain cleanings? Who service your grease trap? I'm in that annoying voice that says, give me a chance.
Yeah. I mean, that's important too, Peyton. And I think that, to piggyback on what the previous guy I was chatting with about was that I told him is I think everyone struggles like that as entrepreneurs as well. Like we all like to think as soon as we start a business on the outside, you'll very rarely have someone being like, I'm struggling, man. Right. I'm not getting as many clients as I thought I was going to get. I'm losing clients that I didn't think I was going to lose. And, and we're barely making money. Right. And, and I've been there with telehelping, right? I've been like, wow, I'm like, I have a couple of clients and we're making a little bit of money to pay for all of our expenses, but not enough to pay me. Right. Yeah. And so, I think that it's very parallel to the Marine Corps being like, I thought this experience was going to be different. Like I thought I was going to start my own company. I thought I was going to get out of the Marine Corps. I thought things were going to be greener on the other side of the fence. And it turns out they are, but you have to keep searching. You have to keep working.
It's all about just not like, that's the one thing that I've learned. Like when you're like here, I'm like, I say I wake up with 2 jobs, right? That probably fills maybe 4 or 5 hours in my day. But when I come home and I got to work on my price book, building my price book out. Where can I go network at? Some of the best jobs I've ever landed is I've walked around Home Depot for an hour, just helping that random guy in the plumbing aisle. And he'll be like, do you work here? I'm like, no, I'm a plumber. I'm just bored, waiting for my next call. And I give him a card. And then a few days later, hey, I tried that project. I can't do it. Can you come help me? Boom. I just got a customer for life.
Boy, you'd get me as a customer just because I'd be happy that someone's there that I didn't have to call. I'm like, you free?
Well,
you've seen my plumbing work.
Back in the day when I tried to get a job at Home Depot after the Marine Corps, they used to make you take tests for the departments they put you in. Nowadays they don't do that no more. They have these little pads. They're like, hey, where is this at? And they put it in there. Oh, that's aisle 36 somewhere down there. It should be, but the world's changing. So what I want to do is, like, I want to change obviously the business strategy and stuff with the world, but I want to give that true customer experience because I'm not just selling you plumbing. I'm not a salesman. I'm really by heart, I'm a plumber that can talk. But realistically, I got to come to your house, knock on that door, and I got to become like friends with you within 45 minutes to an hour because no one's going to say yes to a job, if they don't feel comfortable with you.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. And, that's a perspective and the parallel that you're currently going with and its likeness to post-military is something that I think you're going to continue to find is all too similar in the goods and the bads, right? And so, but when you look at what you're going through now, Peyton, and you're getting ready to go understand really every day the challenges you'll face. What is something that you hold to be true though? Like, you're like, I can wake up and do this tomorrow because I know X.
I just don't know how to quit. I won't lie to you. Like this morning, I woke up, I had that one job this morning and that was it. I had nothing else going on today. So I was like, I could sleep in and do nothing to that one job and come home and watch TV. But instead, I woke up. I went to there's a veterans group here that meets. It's not really like a networking group, but I know a coffee shop where just old veterans go. And I went there and just talked to them, passed out business cards, talked to them, said, hey, let me know if you need anything. I went out. I did some social media marketing a little bit. I have a lot of friends that are posting our Facebook page and sharing our stuff, and I go on there and I comment and saying, if you take a screenshot of this comment and this page and call me, I'll give you 10% off or 15% off. I randomly change it because I want people to because everybody scrolls, but
Yeah.
no, a lot of people don't read those comments, and the ones that do are going to capitalize on stuff like that. I'm doing different things. There's I got a couple strategies. I'm going to do a rollout in March. I'm going to do $99 drain cleaning. A normal drain cleaning is $350, or if a sewer, you're talking not $600 to $900 depending on who you call. I'm doing a main sewer drain cleaning for $250 with a jetter, which is $600 off my normal price. But it really
You're
comes
getting to
down
the door.
it gets me to the door, and then that customer is going to remember me and call me next time. I'm looking for repeat customers, not. I don't want you to call me once. I want you to call me forever.
I was just having the same conversation with the accounting company I'm consulting for. I said, it's tax season, my man. And he's like, yeah. I was like, great. Why aren't you doing taxes for people? Well, it really doesn't make any money. Yeah, but you have hundreds of clients who are your due accounting for every day, right? And then you have hundreds of thousands of companies that you want to do business with. Would be a great way to introduce yourself to them is to do a good job on their taxes, right? I'm like, sure, you don't make anything, and you may even have to hire someone to get it all done. I was like, but you know what? During that time, you can quote them on what they could have saved if they worked with you and all these things. Like people could have do it, but oftentimes people are like, they don't want to take things that cost, take things that effort that may pay them later on.
Exactly. I have a accounting firm that does all my stuff. I pay a flat rate for the year. They do my personal, my business taxes. I pay $100 every quarter for payroll for myself. Obviously that'll go up as I grow and add employees, but they do everything. They're not just there for the taxes. I needed to do an LLC for a rental property. Boom. They made that in a day, they're my point of contact for write-off questions, everything. And they try to capitalize on everything I'm doing to try to put the whole picture together to work for me. So when I do file taxes, it's a simplistic process. They're easy. They're always available. And I like the fact that they do that, because I've had a couple of those CPAs who are like, yeah, let's do your taxes. And I'm like, I want more out of my money that I'm spending on you, than just taxes. So they kind of did what you said. They bundle it all together, and it really makes my life easier than it would be if I had 3 different companies doing all of it for me.
No, I understand, man. I mean, it's the same thing with this podcast. I do a podcast a day, right? And, our goal is to eventually talk to so many people and build such a following that we generate clients, not only through the people we chat with, and we have already, which is great, right? But also the people who are viewing us. And, it's a commitment, because if you go from a strong outreach strategy, which gets you 3 or 4 or 5 clients a month, to being like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stop all that, right? All that effort. And I'm going to just do a very passive outreach, informative approach. You're going to see about 3 months of no growth, right?
Yeah.
And that sucks. However, the thing is are you going to plant the seed? Are you going to do that drain cleaning for $99, right? Are you gonna sit around waiting for your doorbell to ring?
Well, I see it all the time. Like, customers never see it, but I see it where people are like, "Oh, I'm doing a camera for 150," and they'll be like, "I'm not doing the camera for 150. Like, that's just getting me to the door and covers my hour of doing it. I want the sewer job. I want this. I'm the guy that says, "Hey, I have a sewer problem. Something's acting up. Let me camera for free for you. Let me tell you what's wrong." And then I can get eyes on it, and then I give you solutions, and then you make your decision. But the main thing is, the scariest part of it all is just the unknown, because there's going to be days where I don't have calls. What am I going to do to fill my time? That's where I think some people probably struggle, where I'm going to have a difficulty. I'm like, okay, I don't have calls today, but where can I go to pass out cards? that neighborhood just got done down the road. Maybe I should go knock on some doors and say, hey, if you ever need water treatment systems, we do. Those are not required out here, but they're highly recommended because our hard water here is highest than anywhere else in the country.
Yeah.
So I just try to, like you said, let the grass grow. Plant the seed, let it grow. The calls will come. Obviously, we're going to increase our marketing budget. That's going to happen. Everyone's going to do that, but I'm going to do certain things like Thumbtack and Angie's List for certain items because Angie's List is good, but it's really good for water heaters, maybe not drains, but just
Yeah.
But the downside about those places is you spend $100 for that lead. 4 other plumbing companies spent $100 for that lead, sometimes even more than 4, and you're competing against 8 people. Well, you already invested $100. That customer doesn't realize that instead of calling me directly and organically, which costs zero money for them or me, they're paying $100, and the plumbing company just paid $800, and they're going to tell probably all of them to no because they're like, oh, I just thinking about doing this. The biggest thing I can tell people is don't think about it. Just go to Google or ask your friends who they recommend, and just have someone come out because most of us will come out for free, where it doesn't cost you or me money. It costs the gas that I use to get there, which I'll always spend the gas because it's an opportunity. You never shut a door.
I will say this, Peyton. I am guilty of this, and maybe it's something I don't want to admit because maybe it would say something about me, but I don't get quotes, right? If you're the first person that shows up, I go with you, right? Because of that reason right there. Why on earth would I have 3-4 individual people show up, waste their time to come give me the same input, right? As long as I can afford it, I'll pay for it. Like when I had the stuff I had to get at my rental property in Vegas done, right? I had to get a rewiring, new smoke detectors, all this stuff to meet the Airbnb laws in Las Vegas, right? Right? Did I want to pay the $1,800? Absolutely not, right? However, dude was already there, right? And now I have him saved in my phone as handyman, right? And the same thing. Same thing with the plumbers that came out to my house, right? Don't know if they're the best, don't know if they're the cheapest, don't care. Right, saved in my phone as plumber, right? Because they did a good job. You said it was a good price. I went with it, and I do that because oh my god, you know who I'm talking about. This Stephanie, who will freaking have like 6 to 10 people show up at the same time and give a quote. I think that's the most disrespectful thing in the world, and what a waste of an entrepreneur's time.
If I show up to a house and I see 3 plumbing trucks outside, I drive away because it's not a thing that like it's not me telling the customer, but you're wasting time. An average plumber, when they're properly diagnosing things, we schedule for a 2-hour window for a reason. We got to build value. We need time to actually dive into something to determine what the problem is. I'm just as important as a doctor. Difference is I'm not going to shove medicine down your throat. The number one safe and healthy thing in your house is the plumbing. Without plumbing and fresh air, your house is no better than the Roman times when they, do it out in the street.
You have never lied, Pay. That's the funny. I mean, that's the truth. But what are we the difference between us and the Roman times? We flush our shit.
Yeah. And then back to your thing, like these new generations, and you are a victim of it too. These big conglomerates want people like you. They're going to say, I don't have time to call 3 plumbing companies. They're going to walk in that door and write me some quotes. And then if I have the money, boom, I'm just going to get it done. That is a great mindset. I'm not saying go out and get 12 quotes for a leaky faucet. Okay. If someone comes in for a leaky faucet, just fix the leaky faucet. Don't call 12 plumbers for a garbage disposal or a leaky faucet. They're all going to be the same prices. But when you're doing like a water heater or a bigger system, slow it down, because spending your time with the plumber and with 2 or 3 of them is actually will save you money in the long run. Because I know there's a conglomerate called Apex. They bought 4 major plumbing companies. They absorbed one into one, so there's 3. The way they staggered them is high prices, medium prices, and lower prices. They're banking that you're going to call 3 plumbers, and the chances of you calling their 3 companies, they're going to get it no matter what. They don't care who you use. You're just a number to them. You're no different than the market that's getting played downtown New York right now.
I gotta like that though. I gotta like that. I respect that conglomerate's approach.
I do too. It's pretty smart.
It's pretty smart. Like, we're gonna get your business. We just don't know who's gonna get your business. But before I caveat from that, you get what you pay for. Just for the record, if you want to be cheap, you will get cheap service.
And I'm a big person on quality. I'm not I tell customers all the time, I'm not the cheapest, I'm not the most expensive, but I am when it comes to quality. I'll go into homes and sell you certain things and then add stuff to it and not charge you for it, because why not fix that? That's going to be a problem in 6 months. It's going to take me 2 seconds to fix it and cost me $5 in parts. That's the difference between them calling me again and not calling me ever again.
And the difference between them blaming you later on, saying that while you were here, you're like, oh, well, this wasn't broke before you came along, right? Like, oh, so common, right?
It's very common. That's why we take very good photos before I start work, during work, and after work. So if you say, hey, that wasn't there before, I can be like, I appreciate your point of perspective, but here's a photo, time, date, and stamped, # we win. But, that's where, it comes down to that. You'll be
love to win, right? No,
I got a complaint. I got a complaint once that, I asked a young lady, I was like, hey, man, this is quite a big job. I understand if you need to speak to your partner about it. And she took that as she needs to speak to her husband to make a decision. And I'm like, no, ma'am, that is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, if I was doing this in my house, I'd want to speak with my partner before I said yes on it. But if you don't need to do that, that's on you. I was like,
sounds good. Less, right? I done that a couple of times, because one of my processes with I do a lot of people who are in business with their wife, right? And I'll tell them, like, hey, listen, if your wife trusts you, like, we can go ahead and move forward, right? You're the owner of the business. And they'll be like, well, of course my wife trusts me. Why would you say that? Well, you told me that just now you needed to speak with your wife. But you're also telling me, of course, your wife trusts me. And so I'm getting mixed signals from you that I'm trying to navigate. So I'm like, I hear what you're saying.
it's funny, it's a real game of Tom and Jerry out here, and we're the mouse, we're dodging left and right, but it's a lot of fun. I won't lie there. It's definitely interesting. But, I have a unique scenario where, like, I'm growing one very organically and grass fed, but I'm also going to be growing another one that I have substantial financial backing in. I have someone that said, hey, I want you to build this for me. I'll give you a little bit of it, and if it sells or gets bigger one day, you'll have a stake in it. And we're in the process of that. So I'm excited to be able to grow one old school way that's already tried and true, that's actually already functioning right now as a successful small business. And then I'm also looking at one from, they don't even have a department system built up yet, which for me is not going to be an easy feat, but I know the procedures, I know how to do it. I just have to put the time into doing it. But that one has the financial backing to have SEO that's, spending $5,000 to $10,000 a month, and, that can generate 50 to 100 calls a month doing that, because it costs quite a bit of money.
That's a smart entrepreneurship, right? Having a couple eggs in different baskets. So, because sometimes those baskets will fail, and if that's the only eggs you have, then you'll be having to build a whole nother basket and go a whole nother direction. So that's just smart of you. As we get ready towards the end of our podcast, one thing I always ask everybody is, what's that piece of advice you like to give other people? And, as someone who's in the midst of jumping into the entrepreneurial world, you've already been into it, but really putting both feet into the boat, what's that piece of advice that you give people?
Know when to quit. Sit down and think about it. Look at a white wall, and realistically look at your finances, look at your kids and your wife, and realize, this is my dream. But when do I need to call it quit so my family doesn't suffer? Don't ever be afraid to say, hey, this is not working right now. Let me go back and jump in the truck for somebody and keep making the bills paying and the retirement going. And then, I'm not saying give up. Go back to the drawing board.
Correct.
Where did you fail?
Correct.
Where did you succeed? Make the changes, keep it growing, and then be prepared to jump again. Don't be afraid, because most successful businesses and owners out there, you think Elon Musk, you think, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, you think they didn't have a failed problem here and there?
Yeah.
They probably failed more than they succeed. Look at our president.
Yeah.
You know, he went bankrupt a few times in different things. There's nothing wrong with that. The system's there. Use it, like he says. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
built. It's built to be used.
and that's the thing. You said it right there in your word. Like they failed, right? And I always tell people all the time when they say I got lucky, I just failed more times than you tried. Right? That's all I did.
And the word of Ed Hall, which is our uncle, which is the slickest salesman you probably ever met in your life. But there's no such thing as work. There's two things that make up luck: dedication, opportunity. You can't have luck without both of those. So go get it. The only person
Yeah.
standing in your way is yourself.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, Peyton, thank you for jumping on. I know you accommodated me as I had an opportunity to fill a space, so I appreciate you, brother. Literally. For all those listening on, if you want to connect with Peyton, ask Peyton questions, you can always reach us at info@telehelping.com. I'm sure he'd love to answer them. If you're a person listening in the greater Salt Lake City, you won't find a better plumber. So, or someone who cares about it.
I represent Drain Kings Plumbing and Drains out of West Jordan, and I represent water damage specialists in plumbing and water damage remediation out of Lehigh. So feel free to look us up on Google, and I would love to communicate with you if it's just to get coffee or have lunch. I'm available.
There you go. Free coffee. I love it. Well, brother, thank you so much for your time. Thank you all for tuning in. Please give us a follow, subscribe to us at The Faces. Entrepreneurs Are People. If you have questions about anything that we talked about today, Peyton, me, please just go ahead and reach out. Again, thank you for your time today. I appreciate it, Peyton.
Thank you.
This video was brought to you by our official sponsor, Telehelping. Need support for your business? Telehelping connects you with top-tier remote staff to help you streamline operations and fuel growth. Go to telehelping.com and get started today.